Right. So last time we discussed looking at program development. So when we say program development, given a problem, we are trying to provide a solution. Now, first thing, when you're given a problem, we have to put them into smaller problems, which we call sub-problems. And then we can try to solve the sub-problem so that finally you solve the complex problem. Right. Now, what we discussed last time is how you may actually solve a problem. For that, we discussed we can use step-by-step way to solve a problem, which we represent using the algorithm. And then we discussed there are a couple of what we call control structures, which means how we execute the instructions. If we execute the instruction from top to bottom in a sequence, we call it sequence control structure. But if you are going to take different paths depend on a particular condition, then we say selection. But remember, this time we are going to execute condition only once. Third one is a repetition. If you're going to repeat a set of steps again and again, depend on the condition, so that we call repetition, right? So these are the three things that we have discussed under control structures. Now for that, actually we look at some examples as well, how we may use selection and repetition. Right. And the next thing that we have start with is graphical or visual programming language called Scratch. So interestingly, in this one, we have to change the characters. So in this particular case, we have a cat, and then this is known as pirate. And pirate we can actually change using the blocks of commands here. So there are different blocks here which we need to understand. The first one we have seen is how you can move the character. In this particular case, we can use motion blocks. So for example, here we can move 10 steps or 10 pixels to the right, and then you can turn the character. So likewise, we can, with the character, we can place movements. So likewise, there are many other things as well. The first thing you need to understand the stage. The center of the stage we will represent in XY coordinates as 0, 0. So which means X is 0 as well as Y is 0. If you go right hand side, then X changes. If you go to the top, then Y changes, right? So this direction, the right hand side, it will be positive, which means left side, if you go, it will be negative. Again, if you from the starting point, if you go up, it will be positive. If you go down, it will be negative. So you see the maximum, the points of these corners. Here we can say X is 240 and Y is 180. Now here again, this one, X is 240 again, but Y is negative, minus 180. Now similarly, if you go this side, then X will be minus 240, 180. If you go down here, then both X and Y values are negative, minus 242, minus 180. So understanding this coordinate system is one of the key thing to work with the Scratch. Right, then we discuss other things as well. And there are different blocks we have to use for motion, for looks, for sound, for pin, for data, for events, for control, for sensing, and for operators, and so on, which we will discuss whenever we need it, right? So let's look at how to work with it. So I I told you like it's a drag and drop where you can actually drag these into the work area, and then this instruction can be used for particular character or spirit here, right? Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. I think last time we finished at this point, isn't it? So we have completed up to this point, right? Okay, so now let's move on to use of variable. Now the idea of variable is we need to store some value sometimes when we want to process something, right? Now, for example, if you're going to calculate adding two numbers, first of all, we have to hold these two numbers. That means we need to use something. We don't know the numbers in the beginning. If let's assume that you are going to take this number from the user, right? So similarly, these, the variables, we can think them as kind of vessels where you can actually pour some content, right? Now, for example, here we have three vessels. A is empty, B you have some, and C also you have some. You can, change the values in B to A and so on. We can exchange the values. Now let's look at putting some details, like here we have two variables, name and age. The values are, these are variables, your left hand side, right hand side, you have values. So the name is Amara, right? The name is Amara. So if you take the container as name, right? Container as a name, content will be Amara. If you take age as a container, 12 is the content. Right, then you can actually change the values. If you want, you can change, you can swap values, right? That's possible. Now, for example, this is the representation where to say maths is 68. So there will be a vessel called maths, and then you put 68. Likewise, science is 79. Let's look at the second scenario. So first of all, you have an empty one called marks. Right, what you are trying to do is you are going to take maths into marks. So now you will see 79 is here. 79 is here after the first instance. Now you are going to say marks. So maths is science. So you get the value from here. Now this will be 79. This is 68. Now you put back the science as from mask, right? So then again, marks, you will get 79. So what will happen? It will swap the values. So initially we have 79 and 68. After these three operations, what will happen? Maths becomes 68, science becomes 79. So you can, even if you want, you can swap values. Right. Let's look at creating variables. Now for that, I will be using Scratch. And if you have the same, so you can also proceed with me. The idea here is we will make use of variables in Scratch, which is very useful in most of the cases. So let me share the screen. Okay, can you see this? Okay. The variables are helpful for us to create containers, and then we can hold the value. Now, to create a variable, you should first go to the variables. So it's the blocks are in orange color, And then you have to create a variable, right? Now, for example, you have to make a variable. So you click, right, make a variable. Now, when you say make a variable, you will get a similar interface like this, right? You when you create a variable, you can create variables for everyone, or you can create a variable only for this spider, for the cat. So for the time being, I will create a variable only for this spider, right? The name I'm going to give is called marks. Right? So when I put marks and then when I click OK, now you will see that there's another variable here. Early we had my variable, now we have variable called marks. So to set a mark, you put here, right? And then let's say now the marks is 0. To change the marks to 67, you put value 67. And when you click it, you will see here the marks is changed to 67. Let's change the marks. So I will get another block and then I'm going to say, okay, change marks by 10. I put 10 here. Now right now my marks is 67, right? My marks is 67. So when I click here, see what will happen. Now you'll see the marks is 77. I will click one more time. The marks is 87. So you see, you start with 67. Then you change the marks one time, 77. Third time, it will be 87. Okay, right. I think this basic understanding, we need to do the other example. So in the next example, let's look at how to multiply two numbers, right? How to multiply two numbers, right? So let me start from the beginning. So I'm going to select file, new. So I'm not going to save this one. So I'm going to start from the beginning, right? So idea is I'm going to first get some value from the user. Now for that we can go, right, to sensing. We can get whatever we want. Now for example, if I use this, right, if I click this, it'll ask what is your name and it'll expect some answer, right? So let's type something. You click it and it will wait something, some input. So you ask this and wait for the answer. Then whatever user enters will store here in the answer. So for example, let's say the answer. Start from the beginning. What's your name? It'll wait for the input, type some answer. So it should display the answer. So I can put, for example, Pahana, and when you press enter, you will see it says Pahana. So that means whatever we get it here, we can put this. Now I'm going to get one more additional one. I'm going to create a variable to hold this one. So I'm going to go to variable. I'm going to create a variable name called name. Right now, this is name. Right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set name to the answer. And now I'm going to say name. Same thing. Why I did this? Because later on I can make use of this, right? So now if I click it, now let's say, what's your name? And when I say Pahana, see what will happen. It say Pahana. At the same time, you will see the content in name is Pahana. Similarly, I will get another variable. So this time I'm going to say number. Right. And I'm going to get a duplicate of this. Put it somewhere here. Instead of saying what's your name, I'm going to say enter a number. And then I'm going to set number to the answer given. And finally, I will say the number. Similar to earlier one, but slightly different. So this time it says enter name, enter number. Let me say 15. And when you press enter, you will see this becomes 15. At the same time, Spirit is going to say 15. So I'm going to use of the same way. First of all, I will ask for a name, for a number, right? I'm going to say, okay, enter number. And we know what we are going to do. I'm going to create a variable called number one only for this pi, right? And then we have this, and then we are going to set, right, number one, right? From sensing, we know the answer. That's number one. Similarly, I will get a duplicate of this. Enter another number. So for that, this time I'm going to create another variable called number 2. And this is, I'm going to change it number 2. So now we have two numbers. We know how to get, we can check. Right, getting the first number, let me put 10. The second number, it's 15. That's all. So you see number 1 gets 10, number 2 gets 15. Right, now we are trying to add. First of all, we'll add. Right, now for addition also we need some variable. Right, so I'm going to say it's total. So I will create another variable. So this time I'm going to say total. So what I'm going to do, I have to set what? The total. The total for the two numbers. Right, now this is interesting. The first number we store in number 1, second number is number 2. Now we have to perform addition. Okay, go for operators. In operators you see additions. Okay, so this is the addition. So I put addition here. What do you need to add? Okay, we need to add number 1 and number 2. Again, go to variables. We put number 1 one side, number 2 another side. Right, so now we have the answer. Right, so what we could do now, we can print out the answer. Right, now for that, we are going to set the value. Which value? The total. So that means we are going to select total. Okay, we have already done this. So we perform the addition. Now we are going to say what? We are going to say yes, the answer. So I'm going to say the answer now. So what is the answer? Is the total, isn't it? So I will get the total. We'll set it to total. Now let's see how this will work. So it will ask the first number, I will put 10. Second number, 15. Then we know the total is 25. You see, we can simply do this. Okay, when you finish, please let me know. So when I click this one, it will first ask a number. So let me put 20, right? And then what will happen? Number 1 becomes 20. Then it's asked another number. Let me put 30. The second number will be 30. Then total will be 50, and 50 will be printed here. So what we are trying to do here is to convert this flowchart into a Scratch program. So we have to get the length and the width. Then we need to find perimeter and area, and we need to display it, right? Okay, so let's start. So first of all, we have to get the rectangle. Can you tell me what is the command I have to find out? Yes, we have to ask what? We can say length of the rectangle. Then we need to create a variable to hold the length. So I'm going to create a variable called length. So only for this pirate. And then I'm going to set what? Length to the answer we are going to get from here. So I'm going to get the answer. I'll put it here. Understood? I'm getting another duplicate block. So now this time I'm going to get the width. Right. So I'm going to create another variable. Right. And then instead of length, I'm going to select width here. So now we have length and width. Then we have to find out perimeter, right? And then area. So that means I need two more variables. So we have to create perimeter, right? Another variable. What is it? Area. So let's calculate the values. What we are going to do is we are going to set what? So this time perimeter. So how do you get the perimeter? Yes, 2 into what? 2 into addition of length and width. So I will put another addition from here. So I'll get inside this. So I need what? Length and width. That's all, right? 2 into addition of length and width. So that's a perimeter. What is the area? What is area? Area. So we have to get the multiplication. And then in the variable, we have to get length into width. And finally, we go to display. So how do you display? Okay, I'm going to say, okay, what? We will use join operator because then we will say, okay, the length is, the perimeter is, what is perimeter? That is perimeter. Similarly, then I'm going to say join what? The area is, we go to variables, we will have area. Now I can put this, so that's the end of the program. Now I can say, okay, what is the length of the rectangle? Let's say 15, and this is 10. It says, okay, length we said 10, width is 15, perimeter is 50, and the area is 150. You see how it works. Let's go from the beginning there. Right, I'm going to set from the beginning. And let me first show you what we are supposed to do. So what we are supposed to do is convert this flow chart into a Scratch program. We are getting length and width of the rectangle. We calculate perimeter and area, and we display perimeter and area. Okay. So let me start. First of all, we have to get values. Now for that, what we do? We are going to ask. What you're going to ask? Length of the rectangle. Right. And now in the variables, we have to hold this value. So I'm going to create a variable length.
Sir, I
Yep.
can't see the screen.
Right. I get the ask length of the rectangle and weight. So that's the first one. So now I create a variable called length. Similarly, now we can set. What are you going to set? Yes, length is the answer, right? Getting from the user. Is this clear, Dhananji?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm going to duplicate this. Right. So this time, instead of length, I'm requesting width. So to get width, again, I need a variable because I'm going to hold this width, right? And then instead of length here, I'm going to say width. So now we got two values from the user, length and the width, and we store them in length and the width. Now we have to perform calculations. The first one is a perimeter. Now that means we need to create a variable called perimeter. Let me create another variable called area. So these are the two things that I'm going to calculate. Now, first of all, perimeter. Taranji, what is the equation for perimeter? Yes.
2 into length plus width.
Yes, 2 into length plus width. Plus, again, you have to take it from here. So I'll put here. So we have to put length, right, and the width. And then we will put it here. So perimeter is 2 times length into width. Likewise, we can set area. What is area? Dhananji?
Length into width.
Length into width. So we will take length into width. So I will put it back. Now we have calculated the two. Let's display the answer. Right. I'm going to say the length is. So to get that length is, I'm going to use join operation. So I'm going to join what? The length is length, right? So we got, sorry, not length, perimeter. The perimeter is, we have to get the perimeter value. Similarly, right, then we have to get area. The area is, I'm going to get area, right? And finally, I'll put the top of this. So now if I run this, it will first our length of the rectangle. Let me put 15. Then it has width. Let me put 10. The perimeter is 50, 50, right? Area is 150. Dhananji, is it clear now?
Yes, sir.